You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast.
MonsterHouse presents.
Monster Talk's a proud member of the Airwave Media Podcast Network, home of such shows as Subtext, The Projection Booth, and the Daily Meditation Podcast. If you'd like to advertise on this show, contact sales at advertisecast.com. Around the world, people report monsters, but are they real? Join the detective of the impossible, Joe Nickell, as he walks you through investigations to reveal often surprising natural explanations behind some of the most famous cryptids and legendary animals ever reported. Using scientific skepticism, meticulous fieldwork, and historical deep dives, Joe Nickell seeks out hidden clues and real-world candidates that sometimes reveal that even the most unlikely monster stories may have a basis in reality. The Science of Monsters is the first book from MonsterHouse LLC, the publisher of science shows Monster Talk and In Research Of. The revised edition is now on sale and includes corrections and suggestions from you, our listeners, and now readers. Sales of The Science of Monsters directly benefits MonsterHouse and its podcasts, thanks to the generosity of its author. Pick up the revised Science of Monsters today at Amazon.com, available in paperback and Kindle editions.
It's actually quite unlike anything we've ever seen before.
A giant, hairy creature, part ape, part man.
In Loch Ness, a 24-mile-long bottomless lake in the Highlands of Scotland. It's a creature known as the Loch Ness Monster.
Monster Talk.
Welcome to Monster Talk, the science show about monsters. I'm Blake Smith.
And I'm Karen Stolzno.
This week we're going to take a quick peek behind the curtains as to how The Science of Monsters came to be published by MonsterHouse and what you can find inside. Sales of this book directly help the show, and all that's explained during our Monster Talking. So let's get into it.
Monster Talk.
Here we are. It's just the two of us again. But I think this is a really interesting topic, and it's something that we've needed to talk about for a while. But now, finally, is the right time to discuss this.
It is. I just I just dropped in our last episode the first commercial for The Science of Monsters, which is the first book published by MonsterHouse. And
so everyone's primed then for this episode.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, so I wanted to talk a little bit about the book because it's got an unusual history, which I thought I don't know if I've even told you about, but it's pretty peculiar.
I don't think you have. You mentioned an interesting history, and that's downright uncanny. And I'm like, no, I don't think you shared that with me.
Well, let me share this strange story. Okay, so first of all, I was inspired to start MonsterHouse as a publishing imprint by your work in self-publishing some of your short stories. I thought, well, that's a cool idea.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, thank you. I wasn't even aware of that.
Yeah, no, I just thought it was a really good idea because the whole publishing business has changed a lot. And, you know, I've been tracking the self-publishing business since Kindle first came out. And I thought it was really, especially, you know, the revenue share they have originally was like 70-30, you know, or something in those lines. So it's clearly giving you an advantageous revenue share over what you would get through a traditional book deal in general.
Well, and I think it was stigmatized at first, and not so much now to go that indie route. I think a lot of people are doing it. A lot of people who've been very successful too.
Yeah.
But certainly you get a lion's share of the profit, and that is a very attractive thing in publishing, where you'd normally get anything from 5% to maybe 25% if you're lucky.
Yeah, and I think one of the challenges is, if you grew up like we did in a world where it was like an aspirational winning the lottery kind of thing of, selling your book and having it become a big success. And it's still a lottery win.
It is.
But I mean, there's so many barriers to entry into that world. And a lot of times you only get one shot. They give you an advance. And if it doesn't pay out, you never get another book deal. So.
Oh, and often you don't get an advance. I only received an advance for 2 of my books.
And they keep changing like how much of the marketing you're supposed to do yourself. And I'm not here to rag on the publishing world, but but
we truly could. I mean, if I can insert that with my last book, there was, even though I did get a reasonable advance for once, they did absolutely nothing when it came to marketing and distribution. And I mean, that is really a common thing. And they said, you have to set up your own street team. And basically they wanted me to do all of the promotion. And I do a hell of a lot, but it's too much to burden an author with when you're now then moving on to the next book. Exactly.
That's the other side of it. They're not doing the marketing. And so you've got to be working on your next project and doing the marketing. It's a lot. But
it is.
But I thought I would take a slow and careful pace and set up a publishing imprint. And then when I started getting closer to getting my own book, I figured what I would do is I would go ahead and shop it around to traditional publishing houses, but I would always have in my back pocket, I've got my own imprint. I could do this, right?
Right.
But I had only had it. It wasn't even a full year, I think, that I had become incorporated and, sort of started on that road. When out of the blue, I got a call from Joe Nickell. And Joe just straight up asked me if I would be interested in publishing his next book. And I thought, no, that's peculiar. I've told no one that I'm setting up a publishing company. I told no one that I had taken all these classes and how to I took some continuing education classes. Yeah.
He may not believe in monsters, but I think he's gone and proved psychic ability.
Prove psychic. It was so my jaw dropped. I said, Joe, did someone tell you that I set up a publishing company? Because I hadn't even set up the web page for it. All I had done was incorporated. Yeah, it was crazy, and he had no idea. What had happened was he wanted to help Monster Talk, the show, and he was offering me this incredible deal if I wanted to publish his book. He had heard. He's not a computer guy. He had heard that it was becoming increasingly possible for people to do the professional publishing themselves. And he basically donated this book to me to raise funds to promote the show and to continue our mission. And I was...
I didn't know that. That is remarkable. What a fantastic guy he is. That I didn't know that was a donation. Wow. I thought that he...
blew my mind.
Just had a book. It can be very difficult to get published through traditional channels nowadays. So I thought he had this book up his sleeve and he just wanted to work with an independent publisher instead. So
no, he loves what we do on the show and he wanted to do something to help it out. And I thought, well, okay, wow. Well, this is great.
We love what he does.
Yeah.
And so thus we come to talking about the book. How long did he spend writing this book and putting it together?
Well, it's a collection of essays is what it is, that he's in some form. All these have been published before, but these are edited and they've got some new material and they're all bound together with the theme of monsters. So he's also working on the science of aliens, and he's got a third book that he hasn't quite picked the title, but it's basically the science of weird stuff. So
okay, I love it. A trilogy.
Yeah. So the way I've set it up in the store is it's going to be part of a series, and I'm hoping that we'll be successful with this first book, and that the subsequent volumes he'll also consider publishing. I doubt he'll give me the same sweetheart deal as this one, but this is such a great way to get started. Now I'll tell you,
absolutely. I was starting with a bang.
It's my first time doing this, and so when I initially set it up and got it into the store, I was getting antsy, like it had been almost 2 years I had been working on trying to get things out the door. And so I released it and there was a bunch of problems with the first edition, like the initial release. And so I really appreciate the people that bought it, but I got so much feedback, and I finally got my wife engaged as well. Now, she's an editor and had not taken a stab at this at all, but she found so many things to fix. So I've added all those changes. I've added in stuff that people have asked, and it took me multiple tries because it's my first time. And of course, the best point was I was so sure I had worked everything out, but I didn't want to release the new version, so I got a proof copy and I sent it to Joe. And like one of the things was he wanted a really good index. That's hard. I mean, just think about this, for example.
Indexing, it's a profession. There are professional indexers out there.
So as a complete amateur, my first thought was, well, it's automated. It's so easy. You just tell it what page, what the word is, and you put all those. No, you don't.
It's a bit more manual.
I mean, a third of the book is about Bigfoot-like creatures, right? So if you put an entry for Bigfoot, it'll be, hundreds of pages. Like it's crazy. So I had to come up with a system where I did categories, and I think I did folklore monsters, cryptids, and magical creatures, like things that defy, reality, that kind of thing. And then within those, I was able to create subcategories. So now when you go to Bigfoot, it's got Yeti, the Yowie, the Alma, and all those kind of things. So it made a lot of sense.
Yeah, indexing is very time-consuming. And sometimes publishers will farm it out to a company to do that and then charge you.
Well, no doubt. Well, it seemed like all along the way there were people offering to do marketing and everything else, and it's everybody wants a couple of $1,000, and you're not going to get that much out of a book, right? I mean, it's just
you're not. People don't understand that. People can be very naive about publishing and self-publishing, especially. And certainly, you'll get a lot of new friends now on LinkedIn who are all wanting to help you.
Yes, I've already been approached by the Russian team that wants to translate it to Russian. I'm like, seems like, I mean, I'm not against translations, but that seems a little risky, weird, iffy.
How much?
Sketchy, So, but the funny part, I
to do it right.
I sent Joe my updated index. And sent him a proof copy, and he called me back. He said, the index is gorgeous. It's lovely. It makes so much sense. I think it could be improved if you had also included page numbers. I had reformatted the book, and it had pushed the page numbers off the page. Anyway, all that's sorted out. If you buy the book now, it should have a table of contents, index, and the pages. Oh, my God.
Impressive.
It's been so humbling.
I guess you can view the initial release as a soft release, but the good thing is you can update the ebooks, and these people who purchase the original copy can go and download the updated
version. If you bought a Kindle version, the corrected the corrected version is already out there, so you're good to go. Just delete your copy, re-download it, and you'll have a lovely, improved, much nicer version of Joe's work. And I really like this. I'm working on the audio version. That is
who will do the reading?
I've hired
to hear Joe read
very skilled audio reader, the well-known me. But
well, and you have a lovely voice too.
Well, I would love Joe to read it, but Joe doesn't use computers. And the idea, and he's
well known for that.
He will be turning 80 this December.
So
I think he's starting to slow down a little bit, but he's still got 2 books he's working on, and I'd love to
just a little bit.
Yeah, he's slowing down, but he's still solving mysteries. Still out there trying to get as much done as he can.
Will.
Yeah.
I can clearly see that, and we should delve into the book a little bit more without giving too much away. But you were saying so. This is a collection of different stories about his research. Now, has he revisited older research too? Has he kind of gone back? Because I've found over the years, if I do research, then going down the line 5-10 years, more comes out. There's more to the story. So has he revisited these things?
Yeah, he's gone back through, checked to see if new information has come out. And now, consider he's like us in that a lot of the cases he tackles are more historical, and so they haven't changed a lot. But this book is important in one sense because he's very proud of the idea of the overlap between how Bigfoot and bear, have similar territories, similar, habitat, similar dietary needs, etc. So, or as some people have postulated that bears are what people see a lot of times when they think they see a Bigfoot. And so he calls it the Bigfoot bear. And he wanted to get that in print, that concept of the Bigfoot bear. And so he was very insistent that whatever I put in the index, that's a phrase that needs to be to be in the index for sure. Yeah. So it's got
just looking at the table of contents now, and I mean it's certainly all of the stories that we have treated over the years and more. And his work is so prolific.
It really is, and I'm very excited to see his Alien book too when that comes out. There are monsters that would fit in here that we would call aliens or maybe flying saucer occupants or something. But, they're going to be in their own volume in the future. So, and again, I'm hoping I can be a part of that as well. But here we're going to get lots of things like you get there's some Mothman action, there's some Bigfoot action, there's some sea monsters and lake monsters. And if you're wondering, yes, there are owls. Don't you worry, they're in there. So, but it's
plenty of owls. It's global too. I'm seeing that there are cases and stories in Australia and just
in China,
obviously all around the States. And what I've always found impressive about Joe is that he does field research. He goes out there and he is not just doing armchair research like a lot of other people. And it can be difficult to be able to travel to these exotic places and to do the hands-on work, but just certainly over the decades, he's really very well traveled and has just achieved so much. And this just represents a lot of hard work. Certainly, you and I have that kind of insider's view of this kind of thing, and his work is just really impressive.
Yeah, and I love the fact that even though he is always concerned about being scooped when he's researched. So he won't usually talk about what he's researching until he gets the article out, which I think is adorable because I would never, but he's had people steal his work before. So like, I understand that.
He has.
Yeah.
I have too.
Yeah.
I have as well. So I understand where he's coming from. And just the coincidence of him contacting you when you're setting up the publishing house. I think is proof that a lot of these things are out there in the ether as well.
Also,
to be kind to some people. But no, I've had ideas stolen, and I know he puts a lot of hard work and really dedicates months and sometimes years to his research. So I don't blame him for doing that.
No, but I think what it reminded me of is in the acknowledgments he talks about a couple that supported his work. And what they did was, and I think this was in the early 1980s, they gave
I saw that too.
They gave a very, very generous endowment to his research to use however he saw fit. And what he did was he left it in the bank and then used the interest on that every year to fund some big research trip. And so if he traveled on business or, to a conference or whatever, he would always try to find something in the region that he could go investigate, which is a pattern and process that I think you and I have adopted as well, where if we're traveling, we try to find something out there for
work purposes, always, makes me think of the Lubbock trip.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, finding something paranormal or fringy or weird or whatever.
Well, just makes me think about, you talking to the locals and asking if there are any local legends and, Buddy Holly.
Yeah.
I still love that one.
So true. But he's lived the life of the traveling monster hunter.
Swashbuckling, adventurer. He's one of a kind, and I had heard that he'd had some kind of money bequeathed to him, but I didn't know exactly how that worked. But finding out that he was using the interest, that's very clever.
It was
very
indeed.
Wise.
Yeah, very, very. And just, reinvested it, and it's just, it sustained him for many, many years. Yes, exactly. So I think that was very cool. And then, my understanding is, over the course of all that time, he collected so many cool relics and I don't want to I don't want to diminish it and say tchotchkes, but all kinds of little doodads and things from his adventures. And
he had quite the museum.
He did, and he's actually donated that collection to I think it's the Buffalo Museum of Natural History or the Buffalo Museum of Science or something. It's definitely a museum, and it's definitely in Buffalo, and they're curating the collection now, and so that will live on after him, which I think is lovely. And so will this book.
It really is. I would love to go and see that. Yeah, no, this is just a testament to all of his research and hard work over the years. And so I haven't had the opportunity to really delve into the book very much, but I'm just seeing a lot that is very familiar and a few things that I'm less familiar with. And I really look forward to just sitting down with a cup of coffee and reading it.
I've read it so many times, and now I'm reading it. Now I'm reading it aloud, which is so cool.
You could recite it, I'm sure, and probably dream about it.
He has a section on the panda, and it's got he traveled to a lot of, and he also has a section on Chinese wild man, and there's a lot of Chinese terms in there. And I'm super fortunate that one of my coworkers is a first generation China immigrant, and so she's going to help me with the translations, or excuse me, with the pronunciations of these Chinese terms. So I'm hoping the audiobook will be really as accurate as I can make it with my poor redneck upbringing, but I think it'll be all right.
Oh, I can help you with the Australian ones for that.
Oh, excellent. Good day.
It's Melbourne, not Melbourne.
Oh, yeah. What's the one that in Scotland? Edinburgh. Yeah, I'm always messing that. Edinburgh.
Yeah. Edinburgh, yep. Fair enough. If you haven't heard it before, it can be a little tricky.
Yeah, but, I tried to do my best. So.
Yeah, I can see that he's really taken from the research of others as well. So standing on the shoulders of giants. And I mean, he has done most of the work here, but just looking through the references as well. There's
every
chapter,
lot
of ideas and suggestions for other things to read.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's got tons of bibliographical notes. He's got end notes, and I think what's cool is I for the audiobook, I'm going to put all the reference material and the footnotes or the end notes into a PDF. So you're not going to lose anything if you get the audio version. You'll still get the illustrations and the all the bibliographical material and such. So that's kind of cool.
Fantastic. Yeah, and I do like the illustrations and the photographs. And
well, he's a cartoonist. He's done so many things. Have you ever been to his website and seen his personas where he talks about all the different jobs? He's got hundreds of jobs.
Absolutely.
He's done.
My favorite is Barroom Brawler.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Talk about random things. So, we, like you and I, we read a lot of weird stuff, unusual books about unsolved mysteries and unusual stuff. So I was aware of a lot of strange stories. And a story that I had come by was a ritual. And I think this was related to the movie The Thing. When they were filming The Thing, there was a story that I read about the crew going to a bar in the Yukon, and that there was a ritual where you drink alcohol that contains a preserved human toe. And they call it drinking the toe. Basically, the story is somebody lost their toe. They drink the toe, right? So they lost a toe due to frostbite, and instead of throwing the toe out, because it basically become mummified, they put it into the jar of alcohol, and then it became like a dare. Well, then it became like a ritual. And so when Joe was talking to me one day, he talked about when the Vietnam War happened, he was going to get drafted. So he went to Canada because he thought it was an unjust war, like a lot of people did. And
yes, I know some people who did that too, because Australians were conscripted into the war.
Yeah. It's hard to understand. I think today, we've moved to a volunteer army and not, using conscription, but it wasn't a fair system. The war was unjust. It was a mess. So I don't blame Joe for fleeing. And while he was up there in the Yukon, he was going to tell me about the Yukon, and I stopped him. I said, "Wait a minute. If you were in the Yukon, have you ever heard of this ritual of drinking the toe?" And he started laughing. He said, "Not only am I familiar with it, but I did the calligraphy on the certificate you get if you actually drink the toe." So like there's like
what a small world.
Yeah, like it's crazy. So, it turns out that in addition to his many jobs, one was calligraphy and one was sign making. So he like made his living painting on windows and doors, like handcrafting. He's been doing that since he was like 15 or something back in Kentucky.
He's really done a lot. Yeah,
yeah, he really has.
Hundreds of those personas. I've amused myself by going through some of those. Some I'm not sure I agree with, where he's a linguist. Some might have masters and PhDs to call themselves linguists. But demonologist, and he's jack of all trades, master of quite a few of them.
Yeah, I think if in role-playing terms, he's multi-class. I think he's got...
but it's just bizarre the things that he's done. I mean, even that... book that he has on the oh God, what's that drink? You're gonna have to cut this bit out.
Oh no, it's the Kentucky the mint julep. He's got a whole book on how to make mint juleps. Right. He is a Kentucky colonel officially, although due to health reasons he's not allowed to drink anymore. But he's still got. I've got that book among many Joe Nickell books. I've got that one. I think the ones he's the most proud of are, obviously, The Science of Monsters. Most proud of. Best book yet. But he wrote a book called The Secrets of the Sideshows, which is a history of the sideshow business. And he got some really hard to reach characters from that world to agree to be interviewed and talk about how they do stuff. And he's got one called Pen, Ink, and Evidence, which is literally the textbook on, how to detect forgery. And he's got a very cool book called Camera Clues, which is tremendously useful if you're trying to decipher whether a photo is legitimate or not in the pre-Photoshop world. So, yeah.
Right. Well, I think of his book, too, on the Incorruptibles. I mean, he's really just written about so many different things. I think he has just many and varied interests, and it's just such an impressive collection of books, and
really
to add to it this book as well. He's just one of a kind.
He is, and I'm just delighted that this book supports the show and the effort that we do at Skeptical Outreach and promoting critical thinking, and it does it in a way that's fun, that uses monsters in exactly the same way we do. It's a way to not to say that people are making things up, not to say that people are liars, but just to say, well, this story that you've told seems to defy reality. Is there any way it might be true? Is there any real world creature that could do the things you've described? And it often there is a plausible, reasonable, real world explanation beyond a hoax, beyond, anything else. It might really be that. So I love that.
Well, yeah, and I think a lot of people just want to go with the paranormal or supernatural explanation, but I really do love the things that he comes up with, and his when he solves these cases. To me, that's more interesting than just the paranormal claims.
Yeah, and he also did something that I've never been able to do, which was he got Kathleen to read a book about monsters, my wife. So she in her effort to edit this, she inadvertently learned a bunch of stuff, and I will always be grateful to Joe for that, because she wouldn't listen to me. She'll listen to Joe.
After all these years of monster talk. So finally she's been schooled.
Exactly. That's really funny to me. So
I mean, yeah, I hope that all of our listeners go out there and grab a copy of this book. I think that they're really going to enjoy it, and I can't wait to dig into it further. And thank you for putting this together. It's been an enormous amount of work, not only on Joe's part, but on yours as well. And you've really, it's been a steep learning curve.
It has, but I am so happy. I'm so proud of the book now. I am very proud of it. Will the next book have it should be easier to get out. Will it be better? I don't know. I hope so.
Now you know what to do.
Now I know what to do. I've written
a real process.
Copious notes. I've learned so much. I have a process now. And by the way, I mean, please don't start sending anything in, people. But I'll let you know. But I'm hoping to use MonsterHouse to do some kind of fun projects, like an anthology of cryptid stories. Not sciencey, but just stories about cryptids. Sometimes, wouldn't it be fun to have a book where it's about Bigfoot, and it's a story, but it's not Bigfoot porn. And I think there's room for non-porn Bigfoot books, despite what you will find on Kindle.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really great idea. I mean, there are just so many things that we can do with this, this little venture.
Yes, I think it'd be really cool. And I don't think it's going to grow into a giant, publishing house, but I do think that what we'll put out will always be high quality and of interest to Monster Talk listeners. So that's the goal. So, yeah. No,
it's a fantastic idea. And I know you'd been talking about this for a while, so it's just really amazing the way this kind of landed in your lap.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm extraordinarily grateful. And I hope that the listeners won't mind us indulging with this effectively a commercial episode, but it is a cool story. And I think you'll like the book. And if you buy a copy of this book, and we'll put a link in the show notes, it will definitely help Monster Talk continue. It's absolutely helpful, and I would really appreciate it. So I don't, Joe's not out there trying to get all his money back. It's I really deeply appreciate his donation. It's wonderful.
Oh,
so
me too. Really incredible, and such a fun story behind the book as well.
All right. Well, we'll see you next week with something monster related.
Yep, we'll be back.
Monster Talk.
You've been listening to Monster Talk, the science show about monsters. I'm Blake Smith.
And I'm Karen Stolzno.
You just heard a behind-the-scenes look at the making of The Science of Monsters. A link to the book is in the show notes. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Monster Talk. Each episode, we strive to bring you the very best in monster-related content with a focus on bringing scientific skepticism into the conversation. If you enjoy Monster Talk, we now have a variety of ways to support the show, all with convenient links at monstertalk.org/support. That's monstertalk.org/support. We have links there to our Patreon page as well as a donation button. Another great way to support the show is to buy books from our Amazon Monster Talk wish list, which directly helps us with our research. We love used books very much, so don't feel compelled to buy new ones, and we love Kindle so we can share our digital libraries with each other. And finally, without spending any money at all, you can support us by leaving a positive review at iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Positive reviews help keep us visible in iTunes, which is a great way to help us find new listeners. And please share our show on your favorite social media platforms. Monster Talk theme music is by Peach Stealing Monkeys. Thank you so much for listening.
This has been a Monster House presentation.